Okay. Come on. All right. Hello, friends. Oh wait. Hold on a second. I gotta get the mic set up and let's get it started. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Madcast. I'm your host, the Madcap Critic, and tonight we're going to talk about Star Wars. So now that I finally got a hold of this shit and got myself together for this stream, I think it's time for me to present Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, directed by J.J. Abrams, which will be the third and final film of the Disney Sequel Trilogy to Star Wars. So this trailer just debuted over the weekend for Star Wars Celebration, and I am really tired right now. I just took some siesta time before I have to get this stream set up, so here I am now. We're going to talk about Star Wars and where I'm at with this series and this franchise. So to go a while back, we already know that Disney had bought out, Lucasfilm sold itself. George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney for $4 billion in 2012, and right when Disney has finally assimilated Lucasfilm into its company, Disney announced that a new series of Star Wars films preceding the original trilogy would be greenlit and produced under the overwatch of Kathleen Kennedy, who was appointed chairman of Lucasfilm. And it would start with The Force Awakens, just 3 years after Disney bought out Lucasfilm, which came out in December 18th, 2015. And it was helmed by J.J. Abrams, who was known for the Star Trek reboot series and Mission Impossible 3 and Super 8. And to go from where I'm at with this franchise is pretty much a rocky road because I'm not really sharing much excitement for Episode 9. But the idea of Disney buying out Star Wars and Lucasfilm seemed pretty exciting for me. I was very optimistic to this idea, considering that the original trilogy are still prime films. They're still great movies to watch. Just a great stellar example of just amazing filmmaking that revolutionized Hollywood and just pretty much the era that led into the 80s and onwards from where we're at right now with Lucas and Spielberg pretty much dominating New Hollywood and forming their own industry of their own. And the reputation of Star Wars was kind of marred by the prequels themselves, which were met with high disappointment by fans and audiences. Personally, I don't find the prequels to be bad movies. They're just under the direction of George Lucas. They're not technically, in a lot of ways, very well constructed films that suffered a lot that the original trilogy still holds in its right. And so I was very excited for new Star Wars movies to come out under the wing of Disney, because I do believe that there is a good future of Star Wars that was kind of left a bit tainted from the prequels that many people had felt. And so The Force Awakens came out. It met with high anticipation. All the trailers looked fantastic, and they were met with so much hype from everybody who were interested in going back to a galaxy far, far away. And upon release, I personally did enjoy The Force Awakens a lot. And it was a great way to set up new characters into this new story, but at the same time, they promised to take the story with the classic pre-existing characters of the original trilogy and just kind of mix it in with the new elements that would take up more stories for future films of this new trilogy. And the movie made $2 billion worldwide, was nominated for 5 Oscars, was critically acclaimed by both the fans, audiences, and even critics themselves. And for a while there, I think The Force Awakens still remains a pretty fun movie. marred its flaws, which I will get into with The Last Jedi. I'm not going to touch in too deeply with the Star Wars story spin-off movies because I feel like those don't really add much to what I want to break down about Star Wars and the shape that it's in right now. But yeah, following Rogue One, which was another big hit, Rian Johnson would take over the director's chair for Abrams, and he would pen the script and the direction for Episode 8, The Last Jedi. And I was already at a mix of low expectations with the movie because I feel like with Disney, you know, coming out with two Star Wars films at the time with Rogue One and Force Awakens, it seems like the franchise was already oversaturated by the media and in the public mainstream. But I think it's fairly interesting of where it was going to go from The Force Awakens, and to see where to see how this franchise would still hold up with just under the creative wing that's under. And upon initial release with The Last Jedi, it is pretty. It was proved to be a very divisive. It held a divisive reaction between fans and audiences. Audiences, no doubt, critically appraised it for many reasons, similar to The Force Awakens. But with Rian Johnson's direction added to it, it really shaped a lot. It really shaped pretty much the reputation a lot further in a way where The Last Jedi was praised for just his direction and the characterizations and pretty much like the filmmaking behind it all. But on the other side, a lot of fans felt very passionately alienated and just betrayed by this movie because of how fundamentally it didn't get Star Wars right, unlike in some elements in The Force Awakens, where The Force Awakens proved to be a very crowd-pleasing spectacle, a blockbuster, to set up more excitement for future films, future installments. But at the same time, there were a lot of questions left with The Force Awakens that a lot of fans and audiences would soon hope explore with The Last Jedi. And because of Rian Johnson's like sole credit as screenwriter and pretty much like the writing execution behind it, there were a lot of bad decisions made in The Last Jedi. And initially, I wouldn't lie and say I wouldn't lie to all of you guys and say that I immediately hated this movie, but I was convinced I did see a good movie, and I had a fun time with The Last Jedi from two initial theatrical screenings of the film. But as time went on, I would go to many people on YouTube, many critics, and see if my views were in sync with everybody else's. But there was a majority of people that really hated the movie, and mainly just for the storytelling reasons and how they treated, and also how they treated the internal lore and logic of Star Wars, including the characterizations for characters who we were very excited to see, much like Luke Skywalker. We were all excited to see Mark Hamill return as Luke Skywalker, but as an end result, it just didn't land with a lot of people. Because of the whole dour, very nihilistic approach to Luke Skywalker that Rian Johnson took in his mantle. And it's evident in a lot of interviews with Mark Hamill coming out of his reaction to the decisions made to Luke Skywalker and how he felt very strongly against those ideas. And yeah, it took a lot of just thinking about it and reflecting on The Last Jedi, whether if it was truly the good movie that I saw upon initial release. But 3 months after, just kind of thinking about a lot of things that may not stuck with me in The Last Jedi, I do know that The Last Jedi is not a very good movie. It really isn't. I don't hate it, but it's a very mediocre movie with very bad, crazy decisions under Kathleen Kennedy's direction and just the writing process behind these movies. So it split the fans from there on, and this is where we lead into. I'm gonna touch on Solo briefly, where Solo, the second spin-off film, um, was a financial bomb, and because of all the bad press that has gone on with spin-off films and the filmmaking behind these movies, and how Kathleen Kennedy is treating these new directors and even some of the old directors who were brought in to just kind of clean up the mess under Kathleen Kennedy's wing. It's just, it is pretty evident that many people are just kind of sick of Star Wars. And I think The Last Jedi just kind of sealed the deal for everybody. That oh hey Dragon, what's happening? What if the last Jedi? What if the Last Jedi was Ryan Johnson? Did he make a Princess Bride parody? Yes, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Like, The Last Jedi didn't really felt like a movie of its own. It's not a well-constructed movie. It's pretty much the Zack Snyder effect, where Ryan Johnson was taking the Snyder approach and sort of deconstructing what Star Wars really means on a big picture, when in reality Star Wars is just it's just, I'm not gonna fucking quote Patrick Williams on this shit, where it's just, yeah, it's just a very fun space opera, like with clear concepts of good versus evil, and just the heroic characters and archetypes we familiarize with classic cinema. And the Princess Bride doesn't really show a lot of plot holes. No, because the Princess Bride is essentially pretty much a comedy. It works in a deconstruction works in a comedy. It doesn't work as a very serious, like, art house approach to a franchise, and that's what really led to a lot of bad movies like Batman v Superman or Man of Steel. But anyways, yeah, it is clear that The Last Jedi kind of split down a lot of fans, and how Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm are just kind of reacting to it. It's just, you identified the like, we live in Trump politics still, and all the anti-Trump bashing isn't going to go away with a lot of filmmakers, and Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm and all the filmmakers they brought on board have clear political biases that are evident in the films, especially in The Last Jedi. Because The Force Awakens, yeah, there is a feminist undertone, but The Last Jedi is heavy-handed with it, where you have these strong female characters. The Force is female, but all the female characters that we've seen are just complete nonsensical, poorly written characters. Like, they don't really exist as characters. But yeah, anyways, I wasn't really excited for Episode 9 as much as everybody. I think with the fallout of The Last Jedi, people weren't really happy with how the new trilogy is handling pretty much the whole universe of the original trilogy, and how they didn't really treat the characters themselves with any sort of care or integrity or any creative reason why they would go with the ideas that they had executed in the final product. But anyways, I'm not really excited for the new movie, and I did catch the trailer that debuted in Star Wars Celebration. I only saw it once, and I wasn't really feeling much of an emotion to it. I don't know really how to feel, really. It's just, yeah, people are going to watch a new Star Wars movie, but as stories themselves, I just don't care, because nothing that the last two movies, even, okay, yeah, The Last Jedi not being a good movie, it makes some of the things in The Force Awakens look pretty bad in hindsight, and that's just terrible, because since The Last Jedi, I never had any sort of like need to revisit The Force Awakens, because they're both contradictory films themselves in this trilogy, and it's really become a very embarrassing oddball trilogy that I would never expect in film history. But anyways, we're going to look at The Last Jedi. We're going to look at the trailer for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. And I have I hope the volume doesn't really go up, because I don't want to get flagged for copyright, but I'm wearing headphones right now, so I'm going to be listening into pretty much the audio of The Rise of Skywalker. So yeah, just full disclosure, this is going to be a full breakdown of the trailer and what I think in each shot means in the big picture. So I'm going to play this from beginning to end, and there might be some criticisms to it, so I'm not going to be a very optimistic person about this video. Um, but I am going to praise some things because there are some neat little qualities here and there. I mean, it's a fucking $200 million J.J. Abrams film, so all right. Without further ado, let's dig into the Rise of Skywalker. Okay, from right there, from right from the start, much like the first two teaser trailers, it starts with Finn from The Force Awakens and Rey in The Last Jedi, just out of breath, and in this vast world, which really kind of shows like these two characters are tested in their elements, which is a really nice like little side by side comparison when you look at those two teasers. So here the focus is on Rey, and which was really disappointing because I was really expecting to have the same opening, but maybe with Kylo Ren just kind of out of his element, since he is one of the three primary new characters of the new trilogy. And here we have this shot of Rey, which honestly looks really good. I do love the framing of this shot. I mean, Dan Mindell, who is J.J. Abrams' DP, shot Episode 9. And I'm not sure if this is supposed to be Jakku again, which is like a callback to Return of the Jedi, where Luke goes back to his home world of Tatooine. So I'm not sure if this is Rey's planet of Jakku, or are they on a different planet. But so far, very good opening shot. But let's keep going. Here's a big problem about this opening line. Since it's Luke Skywalker saying, you know, we passed on this knowledge to generations. Luke Skywalker taught 1.5 lessons in The Last Jedi, because we see Luke Skywalker, you know, in his very despondent state, how he's become a bigger failure, where we expect Luke Skywalker to be the optimistic, like, epitome of the Jedi in its purest form. And it really just kind of shows how it's contradicting Rian Johnson's film immediately, and even as a set of films, it's just that's one of this is one of the big issues I have. It's just like there's a lot of inconsistency with the new films and how it's not really translating well into the next film. So here it goes, and we have the first shot of the lightsaber. So that moment where it pretty much just traumatized fans, where Kylo Ren and Rey are using the Force to pull the lightsaber towards, like, from one to each other, and the lightsaber just breaks apart, which is kind of like Rian Johnson's deconstructionist message of like not creatively the creative clashes not going well with Kathleen Kennedy. So it's mainly about Kathleen Kennedy, or it's about Rian Johnson's vision that's just breaking apart this brand. And so here, this is kind of retconning pretty much that moment in The Last Jedi, which kind of shows, like, you know, J.J. Abrams is going to backtrack from The Force Awakens more so than The Last Jedi. This moment I cringe really hard because, again, we don't really know Rey as a character, and I know that the biggest problem with this new trilogy is the time continuity. You see, The Last Jedi continues from where The Force Awakens leaves off immediately. And so from there, we don't really get to see any sort of like passage of time to show how Rey is exceptionally skilled in the Force. But like as these films presented, and I was okay with The Force Awakens at first. Um, it just kind of shows Kathleen Kennedy's Force's female agenda at work here, where Rey is exceptionally good at anything, that there is no threat, which is kind of like contradicting to any sort of story or character development you could have with this character, because Rey just backflipping a speeding TIE fighter, which I am assuming is Kylo Ren's TIE fighter shuttle. It's just so over the top, and it just screams, again, forces feminism, female empowerment and stuff, without actually showing any real threat. So the people who praise Rey have probably never seen the Resident Evil movies. I'm talking about the Paul W.S. Anderson films, where the Alice character is pretty much like exceptionally good at everything, but having no real character or stakes whatsoever. And same with Rey. Rey just backflipping over a TIE fighter. It just feels too much. Also like the prequels, where yes, the prequels do capture the height of the Jedi, but at the same time, without really any sort of like emotional stakes within the characters or any sort of threat that goes on within the prequels. Like there's no sense of care in whether whether any of the Jedi characters in the prequels are gonna live or die. Because one comparison I can make here is that, in Return of the Jedi, the Endor forest chase scene, Luke isn't like, technology has come a long way since, but Luke wasn't doing any crazy force tricks or nothing. Like in that speeder bike chase, you do see like Leia and Luke are flesh and bone characters who could die at any given moment if something goes bad in that. Yeah, if something goes bad and not in their way. But yeah, this is the stuff I'm already not really excited for, because what struggles is Rey going to go through in this new movie? Well, essentially nothing, because we know that despite months or years since The Last Jedi, Rey is pretty much essentially good at everything, even better than Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. So what is there to care for really in the struggle? But let's continue. Here we're given some glimpses of other planets. So this dark looking planet here just kind of echoes a bit of Rogue One, like that rain planet in the middle act. So I'm not sure how different this is going to be. Now this is actually really cool. The framing of this battle that's going on looks actually really awesome, and we get a glimpse of Kylo Ren just killing some dude with a hilt, part of the saber, and that actually looks really cool. But I'm not sure what they're gonna do with Kylo Ren's character, because Kylo Ren was an interesting character in The Force Awakens, just this Darth Vader hero worship conflicted youth who's unsure of his allegiance, if he is fully embracing the dark side, or is he just young and naive, or that he'd be willing to convert back to the light. And having being beaten by Rey, I was expecting, because of the characters like psychopathic tantrums we witnessed in The Force Awakens, that we would get like a much more vengeful and angrier Kylo Ren. But in The Last Jedi, that doesn't really translate well, because we were expecting to have this alliance between him and Rey that never goes anywhere, and the whole film of The Last Jedi just kind of builds up to it, but it goes nowhere. So Kylo Ren just essentially goes back to the way he starts in The Force Awakens, just wanting to take over the galaxy and get rid of any existing element of the Jedi Order. And but this is a good shot here. It's just I'm not really entirely sure what I could. Well, I'm looking forward to this character, but let's go. And here we have the rebuilding of the mask, which kind of again contradicts with the Last Jedi. And here we have Poe and Finn together, which honestly I was very disappointed with Finn's character arc in the Last Jedi. I really was. I hated the casino subplot shit, and I hated the Rose subplot, um, which kind of takes away a lot of focus of what you could have with Finn. And the friendship between Poe is heavily squandered because of Ryan Johnson's inclusion of new characters in the Last Jedi. But here we could have a potential relationship on screen going on with these two characters, and I mean, like I said, I'm not really excited for this film, but there is a promise here that I could hope for. We got a new droid character, and Billy D. Williams is back, which I wasn't really keen on how they treated Lando Calrissian in the Solo movie, but here Billy D. Williams looks like he's having fun coming back to his character, and I'm just kind of worried if they're gonna do some bullshit like kill him off for no reason, just to fulfill the status quo of the Disney Star Wars films. That I'm worried about. And here we have probably one of the key action sequences that might take place in The Rise of Skywalker, which is pretty much a combination of like this vehicle that Poe, Finn, and 3PO are like riding onto. Kind of reminds me of the sail barge from of that Jabba owns, and it's also like mixed in with pretty much like the speeder bike chase with Endor. And here we have the late Carrie Fisher, who's suddenly uh, moved on to a better place now, and just looking back in the Last Jedi, how that is the how that's pretty much the last we will see of Carrie Fisher in an on-screen role. I almost kind of feel it's almost kind of disrespectful to her legacy with the way they treated her character with the whole Mary Poppins scene, and just having Admiral hold the door just like overshadow her presence in that whole movie. It just yeah, just no respect. Okay, there we have the gang, and they're looking at this vista, which I am assuming with the with the round shape that's kind of like broken in pieces. I would say that that's probably like the remainder of what's left over from the second or first Death Star. We don't know, but yeah, I'm just gonna I am saying that this is probably like a piece of the Death Star that they're gonna wander into, which might be a new stronghold for the First Order. Only time will tell. So this is one of my biggest concerns about that, the Palpatine laugh. Um, I don't buy for a second they will bring this character. Maybe the laugh is there to say like the dark side is still strong and overseeing um, overseeing this whole conflict, but because the whole trilogy was supposed to set up Snoke in the Force Awakens, who was pretty much throwaway Palpatine, but then instead of just answering the questions about where the First Order came from and who Snoke is and what does he mean in the big picture of the Force and stuff, it's just Ryan Johnson just kind of kills all those ideas, and I mean literally kills the character of Snoke. So I don't know what this means. Like, if they literally bring back Palpatine back, then again, like a lot of the things that these new movies are doing, they're just kind of retconning um, the original trilogy and like all the events that took prior that the sequel trilogy is supposed to stay consistent with. because I don't really buy I don't really buy that they're gonna bring that character back. I think it's just there just as a little added touch. And the Rise of Skywalker, which is a clear indication of J.J. Abrams just kind of fixing the wrongs of The Last Jedi, and it exemplifies just that the trilogy doesn't have any plan whatsoever in how they're carrying out this story, because whether you like the prequels or not, George Lucas did have a vision. He did have a clear goal in mind when it came to those three movies, which was pretty much the downfall of Anakin Skywalker and the evolution into Darth Vader and the Empire. And it took us with a new aesthetic and a new approach to Star Wars, even if people may criticize it for being too modern and too clean compared to the rough, dirty, lived-in quality of the original trilogy. But again, there it is. December. So, very, not a very good put together trailer. I'm not entirely keen on everything else that's gonna, that they're gonna, I'm sorry, I'm just saying a lot. Oh, shoot. Shut up. Okay. An okay put together trailer, some good imagery, but they might be withholding some stuff that might lead to even bigger problems with this film, at least until the film comes out. But as again, I'm not excited with this movie. I'm just not. Let me look at the chat here. Yeah, I got you, Dragon. I'll be right with you shortly. I'm not very excited for this movie, and I just don't care really. I don't. I'm more excited with Endgame because at least I know Kevin Feige and company are gonna give us a very good movie. But so like to me, I'm just not feeling it, man. I'm not very excited for Star Wars. I don't care about this new story that they're doing with this new trilogy. I don't care what goes on with this new with the Rise of Skywalker. For me, I just want this whole thing to end. That way we can move on to bigger, better things and be sick of Star Wars already. Let me see. The Mandalorian TV show shows more interesting things in comparison. I haven't seen the Mandalorian teaser, Dragon. There seems to be the trend with some Disney films that they mark it off with a teaser with an action scene or a very visual scene. Or mostly they're just I don't know, Dragon. I mean, that's pretty much like the throwaway thing with trailers, especially with modern trailers nowadays with modern films. Is it just me, or is the last shot of the teaser the only shot where we all see the three leads together? Yeah, that's the thing, though. We all wanted the three characters to interact with each other and form relationships and for some sort of like tension and drama. If written in an organic way, most of these characters have been separate throughout this new trilogy, so it's pretty much like that whole shot with them in the field, just overlooking that Death Star piece, just kind of reminds me of like just a knockoff like shot of like Harry, Ron, and Hermione in Deathly Hallows or something. We could use more of that, man. I heard that they're gonna use unused footage. Yeah, I definitely read that before, Dragon, that they're gonna use like deleted footage from The Force Awakens. Is Snoke essentially a Palpatine clone? Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not sure, because if he's meant to be a throwaway emperor, then he's not a good written character, and the fact that Rian Johnson found Snoke to be just kind of a stupid character and just killing him off like that, it just shows like how stupid an idea was to include Snoke. But yeah, I'm not very excited for this new movie. My trust within how Disney's handling the Star Wars has been highly questionable, to say, and frustrating with how things are going with the franchise, because a lot of people who are just praising the movie like just blindly are praising pretty much like just the fact that it's Star Wars. It's a Star Wars movie, and that's all there is. I mean, it's not going to be like a very memorable, well written, well constructed film to look back to it. And on the bigger picture, it's not going to be a very good trilogy. It's probably going to be one of the most haphazardly put together trilogies of all time, considering the facts. But that's pretty much it for episode 9 teaser, The Rise of Skywalker. And what I wanted to say about it, I'm not very excited. But if you are excited, more power to you. But let me know what you think. I'm going to have to cut this stream. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, just tune in to Madcat Productions for more on the madness of movies. And I'll probably put some more streams up available soon. But thank you for watching, guys. Have a good one.